Federal budget cuts and economic turmoil have created uncertainty for national parks tourism this year. Montana PBS's AJ Williams speaks with a coalition of Yellowstone's gateway businesses that are asking their delegation for help.
On a snowy spring day in Livingston, Dan Bailey's Fly Shop co-owner, Dale Sexton, rings up a customer.
Are you a guide by chance? Yeah. Okay, cool. Save you 10%.
Sexton is happy to see the trickle of early season anglers coming through for gear, but is concerned that the sales may not pick up as the rivers begin to run towards summer.
We're kind of the fly fishing capital of the world here in Livingston, Montana, and a lot of people come here to go fly fishing or to enjoy Yellowstone National Park. It's not just unique to us, it's unique to the world. We're taking phone calls weekly from people who are wanting to come visit Montana. They're concerned.
Sexton says that his business in the store is just breaking even, and guiding reservations are down 30% from last year. Down the road in Gardner, fly shop owner Richard Parks is experiencing losses as well.
In January, they were running on a par with our booking rate. Since then, they have been subpar. Whether that'll last or not, we don't know. But if it does, we're going to have a serious problem.
This drop in business is a ripple effect of larger economic uncertainty. Tariffs, inflation, and insecure jobs loom as people plan their summer vacations. For some tourists, this means canceling travel plans, as Sexton and Parks have experienced. While visitors will still have to travel through gateway communities to get into the park, economist Patrick Barkey says there's reason to be concerned about their local spending.
A recession this year could very well happen, yes. With tourism being a discretionary item, it would at the very least change the nature of tourism. It doesn't change the desire of people to travel to beautiful places like the one we're fortunate enough to live in, but it does affect their confidence in spending money.
Unpredictability is not a good place to be operating under. There's nobody that represents those economic issues any better than small business owners.
That's why they've relaunched the Yellowstone Gateway Business Coalition, a group of 355 businesses and counting that aims to get their voices heard by the state's delegation. They held a relaunch event in downtown Livingston in late March that brought together well over 100 community members.
Tonight marks that relaunch, and we're intent on building a larger and stronger coalition and even a greater voice. And again, the intent is to protect our economy and our way of life. And if you live here, you know they're one and the same. They're so connected.
They worked with local county commissioners and the Gardner Chamber of Commerce to write letters to their congressional delegation, asking for, quote, clarity and direction regarding recent personnel and budget cuts, and to, quote, consider the impacts these financial and personal changes could have on our community.
We don't like living in fear, and just having a plan moving forward and not just being blindsided by these layoffs would be nice. So that's why we wrote the letter.
According to Yellowstone National Park, in 2024, they had a total of 748 employees, 392 permanent and 356 seasonal. And this year, 2025, they should have a total of 769 employees, 382 permanent and 387 seasonal. This means that they gained 31 seasonal employees and lost 10 permanent employees. Yellowstone National Park did clarify these numbers include probationary employees who were laid off, meaning the numbers of permanent employees may be lower. Even though Yellowstone employee losses were relatively small, they contribute to the National Park Service staff that were laid off or who voluntarily left as a part of the presidentially appointed DOGE subcommittee's efforts to reduce the total payroll by 30%. On May 2nd, the Trump administration released its fiscal year budget request for 2026, which proposes approximately $1.2 billion in cuts to the National Park Service. The reductions target operations, recreation, and preservation budgets. Yellowstone National Park declined to interview for this story, But Montana PBS was able to speak with former Yellowstone Superintendent Dan Wenk on the challenges these changes present.
I think the superintendents are going to do everything they can do so that the disruption that's been going on within the federal workforce so far this year does not impact visitor experience when they get to the parks. Because this is a long-term game. This is not about just the summer of 2025. This is about the summer of 2035, and 45, and 55, and beyond. In the long-term protection of these resources, their delegations have to ensure the Park Service has ability to ensure the long-term preservation of the resources. And I don't think it can be done with a 30% cut.
We reached out to all of Montana's delegation for this story. None agreed to an interview or to provide responses to written questions. Senator Steve Daines previously introduced the Gateway Community Recreation and Enhancement Act, and Montana PBS did receive a statement written by the senator's staff upon his behalf. Our national parks are the crown jewels of the United States, and one of Senator Daines' top priorities is ensuring our gateway communities are equipped for a busy visitor season. Senator Daines will continue to work with appropriate agencies to ensure that critical services and jobs for Montanans are uninterrupted as President Trump works to reduce waste and bring back fiscal responsibility to the federal government. Congressman Troy Downing, who sits on the House Committee on Small Business, also provided the following statement. Government can identify savings without affecting service, and I remain committed to rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse while safeguarding the programs and services that Montanans and our way of life depend on, including our national parks. On the House Committee on Small Business, I've been a tireless advocate for policies that reduce red tape and boost access to capital for Montana's gateway communities. According to the Gardner Chamber of Commerce, they did receive responses from the letter they sent to their delegates, and seasonal hiring has brought some relief. However, this year's unpredictable changes have left the community feeling financially unstable.
We were reassured once Yellowstone was able to hire in their full capacity, but there's still a bit of uncertainty if it could happen again. Just reminding the delegation, that we're here, how much our economy does impact the state of Montana and Park County.
According to the Institute for Tourism and Recreation Research, Yellowstone Country accounts for $1.4 billion of the state's over $5 billion in non-resident spending. $262.8 million comes from Livingston and Gardner's Park County. Petcoff has spoken to several business owners in town who are seeing cancellations due to hesitation with international travel and staffing concerns in the national parks. These tourism concerns are adding even more to business owners' already full plates. Livingston's Campione co-owner Jeff Galley works on place settings at his restaurant for the evening's dinner service.
Things are very up in the air, so there's no certainty. So some jobs have been replaced and some jobs are on hold and some jobs might disappear in the future. So we're a member of a small community, and anything that affects our population is something that we really feel at the restaurant. It 100% affects our business.
Down in Gardner, wildlife guides struggle to think about what these staffing changes could mean for the loss of institutional ecological knowledge and the longevity of their work.
I think it's the longer term projections that have people concerned, and people that have spent their entire careers in their fields that we're losing, and I think those longer term impacts are of great concern.
My ability to continue to live here and to be able to choose to live here is directly related to the resources that is our product. And so that stewardship piece is directly connected to our bottom line.
That bottom line is what drove the Yellowstone Gateway Business Coalition to not just send letters, but also meet with their delegation in Washington, D.C. to speak about how these cuts could affect their communities.
Montanans understand that when you live in a rural community, you really depend upon each other. And when there are layoffs, it impacts everyone, not just the individual that lost their job, but we may be losing a teacher, we may be losing kids in our schools, their housing may be dependent to their jobs. So those are the sorts of conversations that we're having.
Barkey explains that because of the approximately $28 trillion national deficit, part of the federal government's financial responsibility is bringing down federal spending, which could include national resources, such as the parks.
But you put that in perspective, though, what the capacity of the federal government is to continue the level of spending and by implication the level of employment it provides indefinitely in the future. We know we have a large debt. So I'm not looking at the parks and saying, oh, here's waste. I don't even know. I don't manage parks. I don't know what those challenges are. But I do know that the direction the whole ship is going is not sustainable. We need to come up with ways of managing our land so that we can rein in the spending a little bit.
Ubaraga believes that disinvestments in the park are counterproductive to supporting the overall economy.
For every dollar invested in Yellowstone, that brings $15 back into our economy. We should be investing in these places and investing in the people that manage our parks.
Looking forward to the summer season, business owners say that they'll likely survive another year if profits prove low, but that they want to be able to plan long term, and that certainty is dependent on the preservation of their national park for decades to come.
My business relies on Yellowstone Park and the integrity of our national forests and the sustainable and long-term management of those resources. Without those, our business is not going to be anywhere nearly as healthy as it is today.
Yellowstone National Park has a plan for the summer. However, staffing and funding moving forward remains uncertain. As for the locals, their concerns grow as long-range planning is clear out of sight. For Impact, I'm AJ Williams.
All 4 entrances to Yellowstone National Park are open for the season. Vehicle reservations are not required, and entrance passes can be purchased at the gate or ahead of time on the government's Federal Lands Reservation website, recreation.gov.